Welcome to another bonus edition of Upon Further Review.
Upon further review,
And in this edition, we'll be talking about the St. Louis Rams versus the San Francisco 49ers. You can catch this Week 9 matchup on November 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern Time, and that will be aired on your local Fox affiliates as these two NFC West division rivals go at it. The Rams are 2-5, and the Niners are 4-3. These two teams actually faced off earlier in the season, back in Week 6, as the Niners went into San Francisco and they beat the Rams on Monday Night Football 31-17. So the Rams started out in Week 1 by beating the Vikings in St. Louis. So the Rams started out by losing at home against the Vikings in Week 1. Then in Week 2 they went to Tampa Bay and they picked up their first victory of the season. They then lost their next 3 games as they hosted the Cowboys. Then they went to Philadelphia and lost to the Eagles in a game they almost came back and won. And even in Week 3 against the Cowboys, they only lost by a field goal. They had their bye week there in Week 4. As you said, the Eagles beat them in Week 5 in Philadelphia. Then in Week 6 on Monday night, the first time they faced the Niners in St. Louis, they lost. Then in Week 7, they ended up beating the Seattle Seahawks, the defending Super Bowl champions, in St. Louis. They beat them by 2 points. Then last week, in Week 8, they went to Kansas City and they lost 34-7. And now they host the Niners here in Week 9. The Niners started off by beating the Cowboys in Dallas in Week 1. They then lost their next 2 games as they went to San Francisco and lost their home opener against Chicago. Then they went to Arizona and they lost to the Cardinals. But then they won 3 straight as they hosted the Eagles and they picked up their first home win in Levi Stadium of the regular season. Then they won their second game in a row, that was in San Francisco against the Chiefs. And then they went to St. Louis and they won that Monday night game against the Rams, the first time these two teams faced this year. And then Week 7, they had a bye week last week, but the last game they played was at the Broncos in Denver, and they got destroyed. But here they are in Week 9, hosting the Rams, and they're looking to get a season sweep for the second straight year, as they've won 3 games in a row against the Rams, and so they're looking to sweep them again. So I think the Niners have a good chance of doing that. I'm definitely going with San Francisco. Let's look inside the numbers. When it comes to passing offense, these two teams are very evenly matched. The Rams are 19th in the NFL in passing yards per game. The Niners are 20th. When it comes to passing defense, the Rams are 11th in passing yards allowed, and the Niners are 8th. So they're very evenly matched when it comes to their passing games. But I'm going to have to give the slight edge to the San Francisco 49ers. Austin Davis has been putting up some numbers through the air. He's been pretty impressive. I mean, he's their third string quarterback, and no one ever even, no one knew who he was before the season started. I mean, he's been struggling the last couple weeks. He did have a couple of big games where he threw for over 300. Last couple weeks, he didn't even throw for 200, though, so of course, that was against some really tough defenses. Of course, the Niners are a very tough defense as well. That's kind of where his trouble started. Once he went against the Niners, he hasn't had a 300 game since. He only threw for 236 against the Niners when they faced up in Week 6. Kaepernick is actually, he's been coming on lately. He had that big game against the Rams. He threw for 343 yards against St. Louis in St. Louis, so expect Kaepernick to have a big game, and definitely think that the Niners should have, some passing touchdowns. Then we look at the running offense of both teams. The St. Louis Rams are 20th in rushing yards per game, and the Niners are 10th. When it comes to rushing defense, the Rams are 31st in yards allowed on the ground, and the San Francisco 49ers are 4th. So definitely the advantage goes to the Niners on the ground. Kaepernick, he's going to score through the air. He might score on the ground as well. Frank Gore has not rushed for over 100 yards since Week 5. but I think he can hit that 100-yard mark against the Rams. He didn't, though, the first time they met this season. He only rushed for 38 yards in that game. So we'll see in this game at home in San Francisco. I expect him to have a big game. Then we look at the scoring for both teams, points for and against. And the Rams are 26th in points scored per game. The Niners are 19th. So both these teams do struggle to put points on the board. The Rams are 31st, though, in points allowed, and the Niners are 18th. So the Rams just cannot stop teams from scoring. And the Niners are actually having some troubles. They don't let up a lot of yards, but they let up a lot of points. They don't really keep teams to field goals. Once a team gets in the red zone, they usually get a touchdown or they'll get a longer strike. But it's the special teams that's letting teams get into good position, and also the lack of movement maybe on offense at times, which gives teams a short field. But the advantage goes to the Niners either way. On all categories, they really have it over the Rams. And I expect the San Francisco 49ers to complete the sweep at home over the Rams on this year. And we look at injuries. The Rams are really banged up. That's a huge reason why they're struggling so much this year. They actually have a lot of talent on their team, but you got a ton of players that are banged up. The Niners have had some injuries too, but we'll see as they've actually are supposed to be getting some players back this week, potentially, and in the weeks to come. So the Niners should be getting healthy right in the nick of time. But I think San Francisco wins this game. I think Kaepernick has a big game. I think Frank Gore has a big game. The Rams maybe get something going, but I don't really see them putting up too much offense in San Francisco. So let me know what you think in the comments below. Very interested to hear your comments. Well, read your comments. And if you enjoyed the show, make sure to hit the like button. And if you want more of this content, go ahead and subscribe, as we bring you upon further reviews and recaps of each and every single game, each and every single week throughout the NFL season and the playoffs. Thank you very much for listening. It is greatly appreciated. I hope you're having a good day and a great weekend, and enjoy all the sports.